Collect call from a correctional facility. Will you accept the charges? You would expect that whatever comes after this is going to be bad news, but I was delighted. The gravelly voice on the other end of the phone had a Boston accent and a nasal tone. It belonged to G.G. Allen. He was getting out of prison in 2 months and wanted to put a band together and tour. G.G. Allen and the Murder Junkies. He heard I played guitar like Johnny Thunders, and I had a van. I was 23. Trying to explain G.G. is impossible. He was a singer with an odd charisma, covered hands down in the worst tattoos you've ever seen and some pretty alarming scars. I liked to play my guitar, but not in some of the sissy wannabe crap that was prevalent at that time. I wanted to rock for real, loud, fast. Rock and roll was stuck in some limp dick commercial poison marketing module. I wanted to do something real. I wanted to play in a band that when you saw us live, it could change your life. So I joined the Murder Junkies. Gigi was the patron saint of punk rock. There was no fiction in his show. There were no airs to put on. He had what everyone wanted. A rock and roll show that wasn't just show. He was having an adventure in being a human being, and there was no acting, no smoke, and no mirrors. You go to the show, you could die. The world could change. And I'm going to try to tell you what happened, and it's all true, and you still might not believe me. There was fucking blood everywhere. And shit. In the beginning, let's say 1984 or so, Gigi traveled around with a tape. The tape was his backup band, and he would give the tape to the sound man and sing over it. Even later, when he had a band, he would still give the tape to the sound man secretly, in case the band decided to flee. Gigi would sing along with the recording and attack the audience. Physically attack them, punch them, kick them, wearing only a jockstrap. He would beat his head and face with a live microphone, which would make people cringe. He would smear blood all over himself. A half hour before going on, he'd eat a box of X-Lax. Liquid shit everywhere, throwing it, eating it, smearing it, hitting anyone who came near, possessed like a madman, in front of like 20 people, in tiny clubs and cafes, anywhere that would book him. Places he'd never been before. He took the Greyhound to get there. He had no way out, nowhere to stay. He would grab his bag, his face a bloody mess, covered in blood and shit, and split, and sleep on the ground like a dog. Why? Why would someone do this? To be interesting? I don't think so. So many avant-garde gestures get done and overdone to death after they're established. But Gigi forged a path that anyone can follow. And no one has. That's significant. For me, it seemed like he was eliminating consequences. He was getting unstuck. He was devolving, prioritizing. And although he might not have ever looked into it that far. And it was to be admired. Not like the admiration you have for great writers or for people who quit smoking. This is different. Gigi figured out that there really wasn't Gigi figured out that there really wasn't anything that anyone could do to stop him. I mean, he brought it down to a guttural level. At that time, rock and roll was Night Ranger, Bon Jovi, even the punk rock of that time was kind of safe. A trend in hardcore called straight edge, where practitioners abstained from sex, booze, drugs, and violence. Soon hardcore free thinkers were becoming Hare Krishnas. It was a small step. Rock and roll was becoming sterile. Comparatively, Gigi took a literal stance. It was severe comedy, and he was taking all the demons from his childhood and facing them, and that empowerment, and working it out. Tabula rasa, right there at the show in some kind of self-made ritual. I mean, usually when you go see a show, there's no contact with the band. It's a spectator sport, which is why I instantly recognized what Gigi was doing as more shamanistic. Now stay with me. His blood, your blood, my blood, it was unlike anything else you ever experienced. In this game, the stopping point is a different spot than the rest of life. He was going to violate your human rights. Why? To wake you up. He was doing what he did because he hated what the world had become, and he didn't want to have anything to do with it. He wasn't just going to knuckle under. He liked to rock. With the mic in his hand and a band behind him, the madness of the moment was his only master. He was free, like the Buddha, only uglier and with bad tattoos. He redefined what it meant to rock. All these dippy long-haired rockers in cowboy boots like some gypsy fashion show, if one of them ever got a hangnail, they'd cancel a tour. But Gigi was going to finish this set no matter how much blood he lost. He was going to throw his shit into the crowd and watch them all rush the exit in a stampede. It wasn't good, it wasn't fun, but it was shamanistic. He was putting this raw experience right in front of you. He could conjure it, you couldn't. Liquid shit everywhere. Chairs, tables, flying through the air, naked, ugly, drums used as weapons. People screaming. Drinks were spilled, then drank. Piss, puke, tears, liability. Gigi was going to push and push. The safest place to be in the room was on stage next to him. So that's where I hung out. Playing guitar in the Murder Junkies was fucking awesome. Most shows lasted less than a minute, which was frustrating. But when it worked like nothing else. Gigi was, in fact, willing to die if need be to get his point across. And no matter how serious and dire it all may sound to you now, it was all quite mirthful. Sure, we had to pick broken glass out of his wounds by the headlight of the van. And the insane drummer masturbated while sitting next to you in the van while you were asleep, which is unkind. And ironically, I was going through monastic training the whole time this was going on. And so it goes. So what happened? This is a fascinating question. Public animal number one got famous. Rich and famous. Baffling. He didn't see it coming. None of us did. And once he was famous, the guy who was willing to die for rock and roll got confused. Somehow his kryptonite was love. Admiration made a slight adjustment and became adoration. And no one ran for the exit anymore. People were pushing to the front to be the next person smacked in the head. He was signing autographs in blood. It was kind of hysterical. Watching his reaction was priceless. Gigi was just stumped. Ooh, punch me, Gigi, punch me next. A whole row of people screaming. He didn't know what to do with it. Confronted with a failure that he did not engineer, he did exactly what the winners he so loudly despised had done before him. And in the end, he was selling paintings of John Wayne Gacy for 10 grand. He turned to control and took everything very seriously. I had box seats to that show, the real show, which was Gigi trying to keep up with the plot twist that was holding the surprise ending to the screenplay of his life. It was amusing, but also sad. I say this now with great trepidation, as the situation couldn't possibly be more complex. But he sold out. Not in a standard way. He didn't have that luxury. He was so confused, so deluded, he either wasn't smart enough, savvy enough, or the options available to him weren't diverse enough for him to do anything else. And he caved. He retreated to some messiah complex that I didn't buy at all. Nobody did. The Gigi I knew and loved did what he did for pussy, for punk rock, and for the party. So it was confusing when he started ranting about some higher power crap, talking about his followers, like they were some cult. I mean, sure, they may have talked crazy, but like a pointed, politically peppered terrorist act? I don't think so. He tried to write songs about his murder mission and went on Jerry Springer talking about recruits. He lost his message. I refused to participate. I was vocal in saying that I thought his newfound ego was some macho power trip, and that resulted in me being hard to work with. Can you imagine? The guy who's rolling around in broken glass and shit, telling me I'm not a team player? And at the end, Todd Phillips made a student film for his graduate thesis at NYU Film School, a doc on Gigi Allen. It won all the awards. It's called Hated. You can buy it on Amazon for $20. Todd Phillips became the big winner out of all of us. His last movie, The Hangover, is the highest grossing comedy of all time. Gigi's last gig was in New York City at the gas station. After the show, he led a mob of screaming punk rock freaks to my last apartment, chanting, "Chicken John is a coward," looking to kill me. I was at the Oregon Country Fair. Blessed be. He died a few hours later of a heroin overdose on Johnny Puke's floor on June 28, 1993. They replaced Gigi with another singer when he died. The Murder Junkies are still a band. I can't even imagine. I mean, what else are those guys going to do? I shouldn't judge. But to just get another Gigi? There's truly nothing sacred. I know there's a financial motivation. It kind of puts a chill in the air to imagine that Gigi was just another pebble on life's rocky road. 2 years before that, sitting around a table at a club in Boston or somewhere, Hanging out with a couple local girls, drinking 8-ounce beers and chatting, Gigi said the funniest thing I'd ever heard in my entire life. One of the girls was yammering on and on about how her father was suppressive and controlling. He doesn't let me date and I can't stay out past 10 o'clock. She was complaining about her lot in life, and Gigi seemed to be genuinely concerned. She says to Gigi in particular, "Do you think that I'm not going to be a well-adjusted adult with my dad being so overprotective?" And Gigi's response, "Well, I had a pretty bad childhood, and I turned out okay."